Unpopular Explorers. Welcome back to Strange Trek, where we talk about the strange things that occur in Star Trek and some of the more unpopular opinions about Star Trek. Today will be an interesting topic. Today, first off, I want to introduce those that are with me today. Of course, as always, Patrick. Say hello, sir.
Hello, everybody.
And today we are also accompanied by one of our good friends, Kumla. Say hello, sir.
Hey, what's up?
So before I discuss the topic, I just want to point out. Of course, this is like the previous videos. This is a talking head video, so we'll just have a background of one of the Star Trek games in the background. Nothing for you really to watch. This is pretty much just listening. And we're going to discuss this topic, but also at the same time, I want to point out our level of Star Trek fandom. Okay, so I've been watching Star Trek since I was a little boy. Watched it with my father. Started off with the original series, and then TNG. Watched that all the way through. Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and even a lot of the newer treks, movies, everything. I have rewatched them probably to death. I don't know how many times I've rewatched it, except for the original series, which I know is blasphemous. But in my older age, it's harder for me to get through, admittedly. But we're going to have a special series later on that talks about those episodes. We'll probably go one by one each episode and just discuss pretty much what happened within that episode, kind of like almost reviewing each episode. But Patrick, why don't you tell
Mm-hmm.
the unpopular explorers your level of Star Trek fandom?
Yeah, basically same as yours. Probably watched everything a little bit too much, except for the original series, and watched probably the greatest hits of the original series. And the one time that I sat down to like binge it, 60s pacing with some of the episodes that aren't so good
'60s
are
pacing
try.
is rough.
I mean, those are like 42-minute episodes that take all 42 minutes, and there's 30 episodes a season. So yeah, you gotta march through it. But no, love the show. Love what Starfleet stands for. Love the conversations around it, and yeah, probably remember more than I think I remember, just in terms of the details and stuff, because stuff comes out when we're talking. But yeah, and I've watched it ever since I was a kid, watching it with my sister and mom. So yeah, good stuff.
All right, so Kubla, why don't you tell the good people about your level of Star Trek fandom?
Let's see, I also started with the Next Generation. Um, I saw some of the original growing up, but then I did go back and watch all of the original. So I have seen every
Woo!
episode of the original one. Um,
How long did
There you
that take
go.
you?
Admittedly, I cheated a little bit because some of them were just on in the background while I was working sometimes to get through some of them.
There
Okay,
you go.
But
okay.
I have seen all of them. Then obviously Deep Space Nine was I was a huge fan of. Voyager had to grow on me.
All right.
uh, and then I have not seen all of Enterprise. I saw like the first four seasons, like their first story arcs.
It,
I think I went through like their first two story arcs, and then I was kind of just like out on that.
so it only had four seasons.
Okay.
But yeah, the story. Yeah, so I think I
So
saw like maybe three seasons, and then I
okay.
was just like, eh. Um, and so Discovery. I like the first arc of Discovery and got through like half of the second arc of Discovery. Um, Strange New Worlds is my jam. I
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
cannot wait
Mm-hmm.
for the rest of that to come out.
So one of the main reasons why I wanted us to talk about our level of Star Trek fandom, because I knew we were going to talk about the particular series that we either started watching and have watched up until now, or continue to watch up until now. The main reason why I wanted to point that out, because today we're talking about what is the Trek series that we feel would be best for non-Trekkies. And I feel like that's it's kind of difficult to define, mainly because every series is different for each person. Um, Patrick knows this, Kumla, but I've said this in previous uh, streams that as a young boy, I actually loved Star Trek Voyager. I actually grew up loving that particular series more than a lot of other ones. Of course, TNG,
It
all
was 7 and 9, wasn't
um, I plead the fifth. Uh,
Let's
uh,
just say her appearance in that series hit at the right time in his life.
it? Mm-hmm.
and
He was starting to see the world a little different.
Mm-hmm.
from from advice from counsel, I choose to not answer that question, that it may incriminate me further. So,
Yeah. Resistance is futile. Go ahead.
I personally, to be honest with you, Kubla, yes, 7 and 9 was like very eye catching for a very young boy going through puberty.
Mm-hmm.
But um, I really love the characters, to be honest with you. I love the characters. I love their premise of them being cut off from the Federation and trying to find their way back. Um, I I loved how the Maquis had to integrate with the Federation uh, crew members, and
Hmm.
one I liked all that, but also as a younger boy, um, the whole thing dealing with like how they started off in season 1 to the very ending. Um, I didn't see all the nuances with the characters. I actually thought funny. The funniest thing is, I actually thought that the character development in that series was better. As a grown man
Yeah,
and understanding storylines more, that was wrong.
yeah, yeah. That's what happens when you're younger and you're watching it, and it's standard issue Star Trek. You're kind of like, oh, okay, we're just doing Star Trek things. Then you get older and you're like, shouldn't they have run out of photon torpedoes or something like once in this journey where they couldn't go to a star base? Like how did this work? And the show only gives like very passing references to like, well, we have to ration the replicator, which is the oddest thing to ration to me. I don't even really understand. Y'all go back to our technology episode to get why I don't get that one. Yeah, as an adult, when you start thinking about it, it's like, oh, and these people should never get along. They were like fighting a war with each other,
Hmm.
and then in a day we're like, all right, well, back to normal. So yeah, it's a hard one to watch as an adult.
And they, I feel like they had the chance to actually build upon that whole dynamic with the Maquis and the Federation crew trying to integrate with one another. Um, it felt like there was only a conflict really within the first season, and then after that, oh, we're all buddies, we're all good, we're a full fledged crew now. I felt like they should have stretched that out a little bit more until a particular story arc that made it to where they gelled more together. Plus, I feel like Chakotay kind of just fell in as a Federation commander. Like, granted, yeah, he was part of the
Trying
Federation
to
for a
clap.
bit. So what?
He was trying to clap them cheeks. He was trying to get Janeway. That's what that was. He was trying to get Janeway. Uh huh.
But see, here's my thing with that. Here's my thing with that, Kula. They still could have used that as a
Yeah.
premise as to why he fell more in line. But from
Hmm.
the very beginning, bam, he just fell in line. Like, granted, I knew he was a Star Trek. He was in not Star Trek. He's a Federation officer. I believe his level was commander before he left Starfleet to go to the Maquis. So yeah, he has the more Federation experience out of all the Maquis, but still, you were a Maquis commander fighting against the Cardassians. Like there
Yeah.
should have been more conflict there.
But to Kuma's point, Janeway does spend that whole series in respect to her love life, like she knows she's gonna get home in 7 seasons. Like it never crosses her mind, and then she falls in love with a dude on the holodeck after she alters his character a little bit, and it's like
That's not problematic at all.
No, no, not at all. No, not even a little bit.
there are people who are like Janeway's a little nuts, and I'm like I don't disagree.
Well, there's a lot of things that Janeway did throughout that series that makes it like that's a little questionable there. Like the whole Tuvix, the Tuvix episode,
Mm.
Mm,
it, which is I understand as a leader, as a captain, it's very difficult to make that call to separate those two. Um, but she had to make it. Now the question is, was it the right choice or not?
must have been a very odd day at work on the bridge. Like, can you imagine if that's your first day at the bridge and Janeway just comes out and it's like, we're gonna kill this person so that we can get 2 other people back. And you're like, whew, I am just working on Science Station 1. I am not in this conversation.
I mean, I just find it funny that as progressive as Star Trek is, they did not allow those two people to identify as one. I don't get it.
Right?
Actually, that's a very good point.
They also could have made it his choice, which is another
Right.
progressive
Yeah.
And
Right.
watching
opportunity.
that as a young boy, that's the direction that I thought that they were going to go to, not them being forced to be separated. So,
He's like, I choose to live. And they're like, wrong choice.
yeah, yeah,
To the transporter room. Like,
completely the wrong
security.
choice. Yeah, 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 yeah. Get him to the transport room. We're splitting these. But I don't care. It's like, dang, jeez, okay. Um, with that being
One,
said about Voyager, the fact that we even got into Voyager, I think that's funny how we started
I
off
want to
there.
say one good thing about Voyager
Okay.
before you move us along. It did low key give us Barack Obama.
What?
Huh? Okay.
Y'all
All
don't
right.
know.
All right. You're gonna have to explain this one. Okay. We're all ears. Go ahead, Patrick.
So in 2004, Barack Obama is making the leap from state senator to U.S. senator in Illinois, and of course, 2004 is the year he gives the convention speech that
Uh huh.
really launches his political career. He's running against a dude named Jack Ryan, who is like Republican businessman, and it's like actually going to be kind of a competitive race. Like he was going to have to like really lock in to try to beat this dude. And then it came out that he was taking Jerry Ryan to like swingers clubs, and she didn't want to be there, and like there was this like big messy divorce. Huge scandal that would probably mean nothing nowadays, but back then it was a big deal. And
Mm,
Jack Ryan drops out of the race, and
mm.
Obama ends up running against Alan Keyes, who they just like shipped a
Bulldozers.
black dude from
Yeah.
Maryland in to run against. And yeah, he just demolishes him. And then before he even has to run for re-election again, he runs for president. So, and it's like a big story because Jerry Ryan is also like a celebrity, right? Because of Star Trek.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Okay. Didn't know that.
Um.
Go ahead, Kumla.
did I just kill the pot? I'm sorry, everybody.
No, you kind of blew our
I
minds
did
there.
not know. I did not know that. I did not know that story. Um. And I
It's one
just
of
find
those.
it funny that the Borg resisted being assimilated into that culture. I don't understand.
Right.
Well,
So, lesson for the unpopular explorers: if you're gonna run for U.S. Senate, don't force your spouse to go to sex clubs. And I guess maybe if you're not gonna run for U.S. Senate, don't do that either.
Mm-hmm.
Consent, y'all. Consent. It's
well,
important.
Well, okay, so we can pretty much state right now that Voyager would probably not be at the top of that list for, let's say, I don't know. For instance, my wife is not a Trekkie. I've tried to get her into it countless times. She's just not a Trekkie. If I set her down to watch Star Trek Voyager, I'm pretty sure she couldn't even get past the first 15 minutes of the first episode.
What you gotta
Uh,
do is tell that Obama story first, and then
Oh,
everyone will get in.
yes, because that's what my wife loves. For me to educate her on something before we sit down to watch a television show.
Just mansplain it to her, then she'll love it.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, I'm still single, so
okay.
And really, that's where this topic came from. That, like, I was thinking one day about, like, okay, is there a series that I could, like, introduce to her that she may like that would get her into that world? And the topic just dawned on me, like, I mean, what is the best series for non-Trekkies? So we can pretty much come to a conclusion that neither one of us would say Voyager is the one.
No, no.
nah. When I was going through the list, I immediately crossed it off. I just wouldn't even
Nope.
even if you tried to set it up, not in a mansplaining way, but tried to set it up for someone like you want to tell them about the Federation, and then the first show you send them to, like they can't contact the Federation for like five
Yeah,
seasons. It's like
yeah,
it's a weird
Right.
place to start.
Right.
yeah. And the Prime Directive uh, and all the particular aliens that are in the series, because they don't really come up against the typical ones. They have their new set of aliens.
Yeah, they
So
got the Kazon, watered down Klingons. Dang.
that's actually true. That's actually true.
That's racist, Patrick. That's racist.
Dang, I'm gonna get canceled because of the
Because
Kazons.
you're going to get canceled for a fictional race.
One last thing about, or not one last thing, we talk about Voyager for however long you guys want to, but also about Seven of Nine. Did anyone else think it was weird that they made her and Chakotay a thing in like the last episode?
So, so I was thinking about having a topic where we like break down each Trek series, and like
Okay.
just that episode is specifically tailored to that particular Trek series, like the good, the bad, the ugly, um, how we felt that it ended, so on and so forth.
I
Uh,
will say, I will say about
mhm.
that though. Um, After Chakotay waited for Janeway so long, all those years, I'm glad he ended up with someone else. Cause
But it was
and
still weird though. It was still weird
um,
because it like came out of left field, and like at the tail end of the series, in the seventh season, like the last, I believe, 5 or 6 episodes is when they decided to, bam, oh yeah, they've been dating. What? When you had like, and this is one of the other main reasons why, as a grown man, I would say that I didn't like that series more, because I loved how they did Paris and Belana, and how they had it start out like that they pretty much were like antagonizing each other, but bumping heads and everything, and then it kept growing and growing and growing until all of a sudden, like, they finally confessed to one another that they really liked each
Well,
other.
that episode where she gets Ponfar kind of accelerated
mm,
things.
It kind of did, but even before that episode, and I can only say this because I'm currently rewatching Voyager.
Okay.
So before that episode, they did have previous other episodes of like their pretty much their friendship getting stronger and stronger, because he helped her a lot of times with understanding her Cleon side and creating.
He human-splained her Klingon side to her.
I know, right?
No.
I'm like, that
No,
doesn't sound right.
he was trying to help her with, because Balana's whole character is that she hated her Cleon half. So he was trying to pretty much help her to understand, like, this Cleon half is part of you. Like, you can't just shun it. You have to, you have to not only know your human side but also know your Cleon side as well. And he helped her with that, which is one of the main things of why I think that they got closer. But and then and then if you put in the whole Janeway and Chakotay thing of like this whole thing ever since season one, it looks like they have a thing for each other. And then the episode where they were on the planet because they both had got caught
Mm-hmm.
that disease that was
They
apparently
totally hooked up in
infectious.
that episode.
Oh, 100%. He
I
built the
refuse to
tub for
believe.
her.
Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot tell me that they didn't have sex at all on that planet.
100%. And then as soon as they beam back to the ship, it's like, oh, let's act like none of that happened.
Like, none of that happened. And like, they did this throughout practically the whole series. And then, nope, I'm with 7 to 9 now. It's like, wait, what? And they didn't even have
Good.
like any episode that
Good.
like showed some type of chemistry between those two.
I think the last straw for Chakotay was her having a baby when she was that
Oh
salamander.
God.
I think that was the last straw. He's like, we can't have a relationship. But you all having children with this dude on planet? Okay, I see. Where you at, 7 or 9? Come on.
It makes so much sense.
You want to know the funny thing about that comment is that we can never get through a Star Trek Voyager conversation without bringing up that particular episode.
Which is awesome because I almost forgot to do it.
It's the worst episode in the history of Star Trek, and it
Oh,
must
man.
always be remembered.
That
You are
is
not kidding.
that is a future episode, by the way, Kumla. We
Uh,
will be talking about what is the worst Star Trek episode out of all the series.
you got to change that to what is the second worst, because we already know what the first is.
I don't know, because there are a lot of bad episodes of Star Trek now.
Yeah.
The first time I saw that episode, I absolutely could not understand what was going on. And I remember there's a part of the episode where he, and yeah, this is going to sound disgusting, unpopular spores, but he like pulls his own tongue out. And it like dawned on me. It dawned on me that this is what the whole episode is going to be. This is not like this only resolves with this resolve. You know, like we're in this story now. And I was like, like I thought for some reason I thought they were going to move on. I don't know why, but
it feels like the writers came together to write that particular episode and was just like, hey, what do we got? What do we got? Look, we need this one episode to fill in because we have so many episodes that we have to put out this season. So we need a filler episode. What do we got? What can we do? You know what? How about we turn Tom into a salamander? Okay, how do we get there? Yeah, he cracks the warp 10 barrier. Is that a thing? Is the warp 10 barrier a thing? We're gonna make it a thing.
didn't they go to warp 13 in the movies?
They've gone past warp 10 so many times in the series, and this has never happened before.
Well, that's because they learned from Voyager's mistakes and then went past it after. I'm just trying to give them
No,
credit. I don't know.
TNG pre-Voyager went past warp 10.
Mm.
So I was just like, it made absolutely no sense whatsoever. However, I don't want to beat a dead horse here. So, Voyager, not it. All right. All right. So let's go with one of the more obvious one: Star Trek, the original series.
I don't think so.
No.
Not for a non-Trekkie. Not today.
Mm-mm.
No. Mm-mm.
The fact
No.
that I couldn't even I can't even binge it right now is telling.
Yeah.
So
This,
I don't even think someone like my wife would even want to watch that. What about y'all?
I
once
mean, it the racism and sexism it doesn't really hold up
this,
all that well.
yeah, and it doesn't hold up all that well. And I remember the episode where I got the first inclination that I was going to make it through the whole binge. They went to like a planet that was basically Earth, but like some infectious disease happened and it like stayed in the 30s, but like not well in the 30s. Like all the adults are gone, and like the whole thing is they had to cure the disease because they had the disease now, and it took the whole episode to do that, and it was painful to watch. There was a girl who couldn't have been more than like 12 years old who fell in love with Kirk, and they tried to make it sound right because they were like, well, she's actually an adult. She's just trapped in a child's body. And I'm like,
Oh
this is,
no! Oh God!
I'm
Oh
like,
Didn't
this
R.
is
Kelly have a
every,
song about that?
do they have a song? They do.
I'm pretty sure R. Kelly had multiple songs about that. But
So I am, yeah, no, I would not steer someone to the original series to start. That is,
and they were hour episodes, right? Like hour
Yep.
block episodes. But
back in the 60s when there weren't ads. Like an hour
yes,
today on
yes,
television is a very short amount of time when you take the ads out. An
and
hour back then was solid.
that was my point. Like that was an hour block with limited commercials, not like it is now. Or how, or should I say, not like it was when we were children, and then how it is now.
Yeah.
Because we can all agree that like that's three different dynamics there. So it just seemed like those episodes did drag on. Um, Granted, like one of my favorite episodes of that series is the which is it's funny, Admiral Pike and the beep chair.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
When they had good episodes, they had good episodes. There was classic TV in there. I have no ill will towards the original series. I just if your wife asked me where to start, I would be like, absolutely not with this, which is the premise. Like, if I could curate like the best hits, the greatest hits, like how like what I've seen from it myself, like maybe, but no, not like yeah, just cut on Paramount TV and Paramount Plus and go to town.
mhm.
I mean, Kirk's overacting. Does that still play with somebody new? I mean, somebody new who's not used to watching Tubi. Does that
That's
still
a good
play?
point. That's a good point. And we're in the demographic where we got some exposure to Nick at Night before they, so we like saw '60s TV.
Yeah,
Um,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
like I Love
like if you,
Lucy. Um, that was actually
That was
good
comedic
television.
overacting.
Granted, yeah, that's true. That is true.
I mean, maybe you want to reclassify the original series as a comedy, but I don't think so.
In certain situations, it was when Kirk's personality got split and the evil Kirk. Oh, that
Oh,
I kind of
well,
want to rewatch it just for that episode. Now that I'm thinking about it.
the confusing thing for me on that episode was what was the good Kirk supposed to represent? Because they were like, the evil Kirk has all his masculinity and stuff in it, and I'm like, so
So
this guy's like a bit of a. Oh no, did we lose Kumla?
yeah, we just lost Cooper for a minute. We'll get him back.
Okay. Yeah. So what does this guy represent?
That is interesting. And now now that I'm thinking about it, hey, welcome back, Kula.
thank you.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so now
Yep.
that I'm thinking about it, when we go back and rewatch, when we finally do that series where we're rewatching those and we get to that, I would kind of want to break that down more as the dynamic between the the good Captain Kirk and the evil Captain Kirk. So it's like the evil Captain Kirk is supposed to be all his masculinity put into one. So what? His good, the good Captain Kirk was supposed to be what? The the feminine side.
Yeah. All the estrogen in the male body is in this Captain Kirk, who is the protagonist of the episode.
Yeah, yeah. I, hmm, I guess, I guess so.
It's terrible.
But I guess it counterbalances the rest of the sexism in that series.
Which is
Yeah,
probably one
he
of the other
says,
reasons. Go ahead.
I
I'm
can't
sorry.
remember the name of the yeoman that's like actually kind of a main
Mm.
character, but
Mm-hmm.
like, but yeah, the stuff he says about her
Mm-hmm.
is just flat out like they don't do HR on this shit. Like you need to go turn him in. At some point, I can't remember his exact line. He was like, "What moron in the fleet decided I needed a woman yeoman or something?" I was
Oh
like, "Oh
yeah, he
goodness!"
did say that.
Mm.
I was like,
Yep.
"Yeesh."
Yeesh.
And then they
Okay.
tried to play it up a little bit, like they were gonna fall in love, and I'm like, "This is all kinds of problematic."
Okay, so the original series definitely is not one of those.
No, no.
Okay, let's go to a beloved one.
Hmm.
Star Trek The Next Generation. The series that pretty much I would probably say all three of us grew our fandom.
Yeah, we all started on this series, right?
Yep. Yep.
Somewhat.
Yep.
I can actually say that I started on the original series. Um,
Yep. Oh.
but how my fandom really strongly um, came into play with this particular series, The Next Generation. So, how would y'all feel about this particular series being introduced to a non Trekkie?
I don't want to get thrown out of the fraternity, but I'm a smooth, absolutely not this one for someone starting out.
Why not?
Honestly, for some of the same issues with TOS, because Gene Roddenberry was still calling the shots at the very beginning of this series. And so some of the episodes at the beginning of the series are just like, I just don't think it would hook people. And the stars who were in it were like, yeah, it wasn't until like The Measure of a Man in season 2 when it got good. So I'm a little concerned about giving a newcomer something that's not just like fire right off the bat and
You
giving them 22 episodes of it to get through.
you could start them off at season two. They are pretty episodic. I mean, so it's not like they just have to build off of each other. You could start them in season two.
They are episodic, but they're still character building in the first season, though.
They are, but I think you can get around that. For the first season, if you skipped it, like I think you could get around that.
Because
Um,
well,
Riker still doesn't have the beard,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
Uh, the
You don't have
his
Dr. Crusher in season 2.
Oh yeah, you
right,
don't. It's Dr.
right.
Pulaski.
Yup. It's still pretty early in. Jordy still ain't clapped no cheeks, so it's it's still.
I think it's still Redshirt Jordy and Redshirt
Yeah.
Worf
It
in
is.
You
season
still
2.
got you still got Yar. Is Lieutenant Yar still there?
Yeah, I don't think she passed away until season two.
The character, not the
Yeah,
actress.
yeah,
The actress
not the
is
Right.
actress,
still alive
the
and well.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah, Denise
Yeah.
Crosby is still alive.
Yeah. I mean, and then you drop them off where the characters are more refined. You get a better running start at it. Um, it's still
But
not the one I would pick necessarily, but I think you'd be okay starting them at in season two.
but there are certain dynamics that you miss, like uh, Deanna Troy and not Captain Picard, Commander Riker's relationship. They introduced that in the very first episode, and how they have like a connection where she can hear him, um,
Which, by the
even
way,
though
you're
he's
going
not
to lose a
available.
lot of people if you start them in season 1, episode 1 and 2.
That was gonna be that was gonna be my thing. I agree that this wouldn't be the great one, and really this is what I'm looking at. I really look at the pilot episode. Is the pilot episode for Voyager going to suck anybody in? That's not a Trekkie.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
Not really. The pilot
Especially
episode,
when Janeway blows up the way to go home.
yeah,
Like, I'm sure a lot of people are just gonna be like, okay. If you have no basis in Starfleet and what it stands for, that decision makes no sense.
Right.
the pilot
Right.
episode in the original series, which that one's even more confusing
They had
because
two of
there were
them.
two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yep.
and then I think about
You
the
immediately, yeah, switching captains through that. Yeah, probably
yeah,
not.
it's like hold on, wait, I thought it was Captain Pike was the no. See, what had happened was you guys explained the whole thing as to why Captain Pike is no longer the captain and now it's Captain Kirk and what they did there. Da da da. Da. That's too much explaining.
Mm-hmm.
The Encounter at Firepoint, the pilot episode for the Next Generation. For a Trekkie, we love the type of stuff that they talked about in that episode. A lot of the technology that they pointed out, a lot of the how the Federation deals with those in the treatment of other races, regardless of what type of race that they are. Just pretty much establishing the Federation and how they are at that time comparative to how the original series was. Like a lot of that stuff will go over the heads of non-Trekkies, in my opinion.
Yeah, because what you're left with at the end of the day is a godlike creature from space sent them to a planet to discover space jellyfish, and
Yeah,
then everything was okay, but not okay. And it's like, I have no clue what is going on here.
but not only that, the stuff that the Q continuum, like that really goes over non-Trekkie's head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 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 Agree. I agree.
So I don't think that's the one either. Um, only
Also, there's a major holodeck faux pas in there. From the start, you will not understand how the holodeck works. Because isn't that the episode where one of them
oh
falls in
yeah,
the
yep,
water and then walks out of the holodeck and they're still
and they're still
wet
wet.
from the water?
And they're still
And it's
wet.
like,
However, I can't
but
explain
it's,
that part of it. The one that actually you should really focus on is when the snowball came out and it hit Captain Picard.
yeah, that one was weird.
Like that snowball should have dematerialized before it even hit Captain Picard.
Which
Yeah.
they do later on in the series.
Exactly.
That episode we did on the technology was fun. Like, that's where I'm remembering this from.
The whole the and Kula, just to catch you up, the whole thing about the holodeck was that it also used the technology for oh, why I can't think of it. Why am I now
The
blanking? The
replicator.
replicator, yeah. So it uses that same technology. So that's why I can say like, oh, him getting wet in the holodeck was still once he left the holodeck because it's not actually. You know, the more I break this down, the more and more confusing it gets. Now that I'm thinking about
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we didn't come to
it.
good resolution in the episode. We didn't have Kumla, who understands coding and programming and AI and all sorts of things, so he might know. But I was definitely like, I don't understand how this thing works. I don't understand how you have sex on the holodeck. I don't understand it, but you know, if I had one, I'd use it, right?
Well, I mean, the technology doesn't exist, so you just gotta kind of use your imagination on the rules they give you for the
Mm-hmm.
holiday. And as far as it being the same tech, doesn't make it exactly the same, right? Like,
Well, it's not.
um,
It's technically not the same tech. I think Memory Alpha was saying that it uses replicator technology in the whole thing of creating the environment that they want to create.
right, right. It's take. My guess would be the food replicators are taking like a 3D printer, a really advanced 3D printer, taking actual substance and recreating it to make a real object, whereas the holodeck is taking whatever it takes and makes fake stuff out of light
Out of
particles,
light
which
and
Mm-hmm.
photons.
conveys some kind of where I don't know whole technology. But it's, but the process of transforming from a substance to a thing like a 3D printer is what's the same in the two, but it's making different stuff. I think that's probably how that
Yeah,
works, if I
probably.
had to guess. But
And if you
yeah,
introduce enough people to the show via that episode, you're going to get that question a few times. You're just going to be like, don't worry about it. Focus on the
yeah.
space jellyfish.
But here's the thing, right? If they're asking those questions, they're already hooked.
That's a fair point.
That's a fair point. That is
That
a
is a
really
good
good
point.
point. So, because that makes you believe that they want to know more, like they're actually interested in the series to actually want to know more of what's going on. So that's a
Right.
fair point. However, there is one episode that, if they got to it, that would hook
There
you.
are four lights.
Had to find a way.
Told you I was gonna use that sound bite. I was gonna find a way to loop that
Yep. Yep. Now that episode's pretty easy to understand
Oh
what's
man.
going on.
Yep. Yes, it is.
in. Granted,
Yes,
it's
it
a
is.
two-parter though. It is a two-parter. There would be some explanation needed, but that was one of the better episodes of that series. Um, but for everything that we said, but I mean, what that was season
I
four,
don't know
five.
why. Yeah, I don't know why, but this is the first time I've really noticed that the track lighting above my desk in my apartment actually has four lights on it. I probably will take a picture and send it to you guys later. But I just looked up at it for the first time. I was like, oh, there are four lights.
Are you sure? Are you sure they're for life?
Well, I don't have anyone torturing me here. But they're
Well,
right about it.
that's funny because when I stayed with you last year, I do remember seeing that. So yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, so Star Trek: The Next Generation, we all agree, probably not the best one for
Which,
non-Trekkies.
just a little meta commentary here. I am a little surprised by that, given that we all started on it. I thought one of us was going to go, no, no, you got to start where I start. But
Well, we're
yeah,
thinking about non-Trekkies, right? So, people who have, well, probably a good thing that I define a non-Trekkie, right, is probably somebody who's not watched it and decided they didn't like it, but
Mm-hmm.
someone who probably just steered away from it based on the
mm,
little knowledge or the knowledge in social media or in the
Mm-hmm.
society that they've just heard about and just decided off of that it wasn't their type of programming.
and a
So,
big thing that we're assuming is that they're adults. Because a
so
kid, just like me, like I just watched it because the adults were watching it, right? And got into it. So,
I don't know. My parents were not Trekkies at all.
okay.
So that was just me
See,
sitting
that's
down as a
interesting
kid
because
and
both
watching.
my parents were Trekkies,
Yeah,
or
no,
still are.
neither of my parents. Yeah, nope, neither of my parents are.
Um, my mom likes Star Wars more than Star Trek, but watched it. My
Mm-hmm.
sister's a Trekkie, and she was watching it. And my dad could not care for any of this. He's
Yeah,
into
Really?
westerns and yeah, he's into westerns and police procedurals. Like it has to be very tangible and real for him to enjoy fiction. Once it starts getting out there, he's like just watching it because we're watching. Although oddly enough, he liked Iron Man, so I think maybe it's because he works
Iron
on
Man's a good
machines all
movie.
day. But
Iron
yeah,
Man's a
so he
good
hmm
liked
movie.
Iron Man.
So
yeah,
it's
yeah. No, my
I thought it was interesting that you said your mom was more of a Trekkie than your father was not. I really thought you were going to say your father was a hardcore Trekkie.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Just from granted, I don't know your parents as well, but no, just from what I know about them, I would have thought
Yeah.
that. What were you about to say,
Yeah.
Kumar?
I was gonna say sci-fi is not a thing for either of my parents, so they're not into Star Wars or Star Trek. Um,
Interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
I came of it on my own. Just happened to come across the show by myself.
Well,
Just
Watching.
saw it on TV and was like, "This is it. This is my jam. This is
Yeah.
what I like."
well,
Nice.
but Kumla, you're the only one here with that has a child. Would you feel that your child would be able to get into Star Trek?
The next generation? Oh no, no, not he. No, not right now. Nope, nope, nope. Ask me again in 5 years when he's a totally different person again. Maybe we'll see, but nah, especially not TNG. If it was a kid, um,
But that's the crazy thing. Like we were kids. We were kids when TNG came out. It was what 88 that they came out.
TNG is 87, so we were three when it was premiered. It was probably in its like fifth or sixth season before I knew what it was, but they were showing reruns because it went to syndication like really quick.
Yeah, that's true.
so well for my son, he hasn't really seen Star Trek, but he has seen Star Wars, and he was not impressed. So
Really?
Okay.
nah,
Well,
he's just
Star
not.
Wars hasn't been that impressive lately.
Yeah, I tried showing him the originals, and he's a kid, and so he's like, he could care less. He doesn't
Kumla,
hate it, but
I'm
he could care less.
I'm sorry to say, but you're
Gotcha.
failing as a father.
Yeah, I know.
We we got him hooked on Jesus, but that's not good
Yeah,
enough. We also got to get him hooked on Star Trek.
We got to get them hooked on all religions now. Okay, all right.
yeah, yeah.
Star Trek and Star Wars is definitely religion. Okay, all right. Moving on. So Star Trek: The Next Generation. No. All right. Star Trek Enterprise.
No,
Based on what you said earlier, I'm not surprised.
here's the talking about a young kid. If you want to get a young kid who's about to go into puberty, just show
Oh,
them to
Mm-hmm.
Paul.
to
Just
Paul.
show them to Paul,
Yeah.
and they will give it at least a chance. They're gonna give
They'll
it at
watch
least a
every
chance.
episode.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's all you really need.
It's funny because I think they did. They did this kind of the same thing when it came to Jerry Ryan's character. It's like, oh, we're gonna find a very attractive woman and put them in tight skin clothing, and that's the quote unquote eye candy for the show, and that will probably get people to watch more. But the crazy thing with that is like, yes, you had that. However, you didn't do well with the writing. And Enterprise Enterprise had the same kind of issue that the Next Generation had. The first two seasons are really slow. They're really slow and they drag. And it a lot of those episodes, oh my god, like it I was just sitting there like what am I even watching? Why am I even rewatching this? What am I doing?
Yeah. And also on that show, much like Voyager, that show is based on people knowing what it's supposed to be and it being a variation of it. So them not having shields, them not having phasers for or phase cannons, whatever, for the first
Mhm.
however many episodes. There was never like really any photon torpedoes except in like you don't know what it's deviating from, so you don't know what the show's trying to capitalize on. So you're just watching the guy from Quantum Leap, you know, yell at people and fight people for a bit. Like,
The funny thing about that series, when I had started watching it, the very first episode that I saw when it first came out, I didn't watch the pilot episode, but I believe it was either the second or the third episode that I watched, and they were trying to get the torpedoes online because they left dry dock too early to get them installed,
mm-hmm.
and they were
Mm-hmm.
coming and they were facing some like nameless.
I know the phase cannons. They're trying to get the phase cannons online.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no. This is well, no. Okay, you're right. That was the episode with the phase cannons. But there was one episode where they like showed the torpedoes, and when they fired them, it just like bounced off of what they were firing.
Yeah, yeah. Like they're irrationally weak for most of that series, and it's like there's part of the times where I'm like, these people are all gonna die, right?
Well,
Like, this
Oh,
is about the ship that didn't make it.
that's part of the thrill, right? Is they are underpowered, so underpowered, and even there was one episode where the Andorians come on, or not the Andorians, the blue people.
yeah, you're right. The
They come
Yeah,
on the
that's
Andorians.
the
ship.
Endurance.
The Andorians
Yeah.
come on, and he looks at the ship and he's like, "How the heck did y'all make it on this rickety little
This
thing?"
pretty piece of.
It's like,
That's
I
right.
admire y'all, your courage for coming out in this. Yeah.
I liked it for the aspect of we're showing the Federation in its infancy. The Federation hadn't even been created yet. This is the ship that they launched that pretty much started the whole thing of them getting to the Federation and seeing the seeing the growing pains, I should say. I did like that aspect, but I felt like their delivery of it was not that great. Like they did not do a great job at it.
Yeah, I'm looking through the episode list. There are definitely like a lot of episodes I don't remember, and I think it's because they were just very boring.
They didn't have to pop.
They
They
did have
didn't
to
have to
fall.
fall.
T'Pol was
Yeah,
in the every episode for the most part that I
Yeah,
could think of.
yeah, but which one was the decontamination
Oh,
episode?
oh, oh,
Yeah, exactly,
a
exactly.
lot of season one.
Again, they don't have HR on these ships.
Mm, mm-mm.
The whole
There was an episode where Trip, DePaul, and Sato, the communications
yeah,
ensign, were like
Yep,
all in decontamination,
that is the
rubbing the
one I'm talking about.
decontamination.
that's actually
That
the
is the
one
one
that
I am talking
I
about.
thought about when you said
Yep,
that.
exactly. Like you're like they decontaminate all the time. No, but there's one. There's one episode you talk about that. Yes, that is the one.
And it's
That is,
really obvious that they're doing this for the sex appeal. Like it it's
I
really
can't remember a
obvious.
line of dialogue or what was going on in that episode, what the challenge was, or why they even had to.
What the challenge was, the Paul couldn't reach her back, so Trip had to help her.
I know, right? That scene was a whole episode.
But like the first two seasons, like I said, not that great. They were not that great. It's a slog. If you try to go back and rewatch it now, I guarantee you would be like, man, this is dragging. The third season, however, was great. I feel like the third season of Star Trek Enterprise is one of the best seasons of Star Trek.
When they
Um,
finally
So
get the insectoids.
yeah, when the
Yeah,
Zindi, the whole Zindi
yeah.
conflict, like
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
that's when it actually took off, and you had way more character development than what you had in the previous two. You had character development in the other two series, I mean, other two seasons. I will say that, but there was a whole lot more in season three. It's almost like the writing room really caught their stride in that one.
so Kumla hit on this earlier when he was talking about Star Trek: The Next Generation being episodic,
Hmm.
and now you're bringing in the other side of it with serialized storytelling.
Yeah,
And I wonder, for a modern adult non-Trekkie, do you send them to the episodic or do you send them to the serialized? That's why I honestly don't have like a complete answer for where I'd start them right now. Because I'm like, man, will they respond to serialized storytelling or episodic storytelling?
I guess that would
Like,
depend
I'm
on the
not quite sure.
person, really. And like I
Yeah.
said, the main person that I think about when with us having this conversation is my wife. Like, would she like this particular series? And I can honestly tell you, she would not. She would be like, "What the hell is going on?" the whole time. So
Yeah.
So, yeah. And in the fourth
Agreed.
season, now that I'm looking at it, they do a bunch of like mini arcs in there, some of which are actually pretty entertaining.
the
Like
first
the
season
Mirror
was also
Universe
pretty
one.
decent. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The one where they're fighting the augments.
Hmm.
Even though that didn't need to be a three-parter, that could have been a two-parter.
So it wasn't not necessarily terrible, but not necessarily a great series. And then how it ended. Oh my God. We don't even want to touch on the last episode of Enterprise
Oh
because it,
man,
as
that'll come
part
up
of,
in the, as Kuma
And
said,
then,
the second worst episode of Star Trek conversation.
and then you don't even really get to the Federation by the end,
Ah,
really?
yeah,
By the end of the you don't really get to the Federation. It's like an idea.
they
yeah,
but the last episode, that's what they did. They kind of jumped to it. It was just it was the how they executed the whole. This was how the
Hmm.
Federation was
it was a
started.
holodeck episode. You should never finish a series on a holodeck episode. And also, the series has missing potential because theoretically, if it goes on long enough, the Romulan War, which has never really been on TV or movies,
Hmm.
would have happened in this
Hmm.
era. And it's like, and no one really knows. It's like it's a universe-defining war between um, Earth and the Romulans, and it's like we've never seen it, and we don't know who participated in it or anything like
Hmm.
that. So,
Yeah.
Which
but
they
you
were
wouldn't
trying
know
to
that
build
as a
up
new
to.
Trekkie.
Which they were trying to build up to. That was one particular episode in season 4 where they kind of alluded to how the Romulans were kind of doing things behind the scenes to um, pretty much get Earth. I was about to say the Federation. It's not Federation. To get Earth, uh, the Vulcans, the Andorians, and the Tellarites to like have a conflict. Uh, so they were trying to go there, but
Yeah, they did have a couple episodes where they formed the Federation for like 5 minutes to fight the Romulans, and then
Right.
dispersed. About the last episode, and I know we're going to do the worst episode talk later.
mhm.
And when we get there, we better talk about this. I forgot that that whole holodeck episode is set during the two-part, no, not even the two-parter,
No, it was one whole
the,
episode. Yeah,
about the Pegasus and
yes,
the cloaking device, and like, oh, God,
from the next generation. Yes, yes, it awful.
Star Trek was not in safe hands when the shows were on UPN.
Mm,
Something was wrong.
Okay, so Enterprise no go.
no.
All right, 3 more series.
Sure about that?
Yeah, series. We're not we don't want to focus on the movies.
I know.
Um, don't want to focus on any like for instance the new one with Yao in it.
Section
Section
31.
31. Yeah.
Right. That's only a movie anyway.
Yeah, that's considered a movie, even though it didn't go to theaters. It's still considered a movie. But
Right.
like what? So the last three, I believe, Discovery. Well, no. You know what? For some reason, I didn't even think to even introduce Lower Decks.
I was gonna
Now
say,
that
Exactly.
I was like, are we
Exactly.
cutting out animation?
now that I think about it,
Exactly.
Lordex and Prodigy.
now that I think about it, you know what? Let's touch on those two because I feel like Prodigy um, would be great for a young kid to kind of get into it. But even Prodigy, like they touch on what the Federation is and all that, but not to the same level as like the next generation would do. What do
I
y'all
can't
think?
remember the exact line,
Hmm.
but the holodeck Janeway says something like, "Flying off with a half-cocked plan to go save a group of people that you don't even know is what Starfleet is all about." And I was like, "This is top tier." Yes,
You
that
sure that
sentence
wasn't
sums
Lower
up
Decks?
the
Are
whole.
you sure that wasn't Lower Decks?
No,
No,
it
it was
was
Prodigy.
Prodigy.
It was Prodigy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I
Uh,
have not seen Prodigy. So I don't really have anything to offer here. Uh,
Actually, not a bad series.
okay.
Yeah,
Granted,
I've seen the first season. I haven't seen the second season yet, but I liked it.
yeah, the first season was originally on Paramount, and then they canceled it. And was it Nickelodeon that picked them up?
I think so.
So, and Nickelodeon actually had the second season. So I haven't seen the second season either. But
To Kumla's point, though, that line I just said also fits very well in Lower Decks.
it does.
Yes.
It does. Which brings me to Lower Decks. Because
Hmm.
I feel like in order to get a lot of the jokes in Lower Decks, because really all they're doing is pretty much making fun of crazy stuff within Star Trek.
Yep.
And granted, like they have like, storylines for the crew and everything, but they're always referencing stuff that goes back to other series within Star Trek. So if you've never watched Star Trek and this is your very first series that you're coming into, you'd be like, "What the heck are they talking about? That joke didn't even land for me. I don't know what they're talking about." What about
So
that?
so yes, we know the jokes, so we get it. But the question is it still funny if you don't know, if you don't have the extra layers to it?
Hmm.
Um,
I think some
I'm not
jokes
a hundred.
would.
Some things are, and it's outrageous, and it's a cartoon, um, and it's a story about a girl who's always getting into stuff. Um, it might, right? It's very Family Guy esque,
It
very
Hmm.
is. It is.
Yeah,
and
very Futurama, but
yeah, yeah, and
yeah.
it might. I think it would have a chance. Um, Even if you don't get the depth of all the jokes, it might still be funny to a person
Yeah,
that
but would
hadn't.
it
That
would
wasn't on.
do you think that would ignite their passion to want to learn more about Star Trek, to want to watch some of the other series?
I think if they watched it long enough,
Hmm.
have I think they just eventually start getting enough questions that were like, all right, look, what are some of these things they're talking about?
Hmm. Hmm.
Maybe because
Spark some
they do
curiosity. Yeah.
right, right.
That's possible.
But yeah, maybe.
I
I
think
think
it's
it's a
a
contender.
I think it's I think you're making a decent case for starting someone out on it. I think I'm still on a no, just because I feel like we have better options. But I wouldn't I wouldn't have any hesitation if someone was like, "Oh no, I really like animation and jokes and things like that." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Like, you know, I'll watch it with you and explain the stuff that you're not getting. Maybe that helps them along the way.
And it is way more lighthearted too. More
Hmm.
Hmm.
lighthearted than other series, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. There's not all the technical babble or jargon that most Star Trek series would normally hit on. So it could be easier to digest for a non-Trekkie. Uh,
Right,
but like I said, like they will be missing some of those jokes because they don't know
yeah,
Star Trek.
right.
So it is possible.
Yeah, yeah.
So we can put that in the possible category, Patrick.
I think
Impossible, yeah. I'm just thinking, and I'm just putting this out here in the universe. If I had a girlfriend that was into irreverent jokes, maybe I would, we could watch that together. If any unpopular Trek ladies are listening.
yes, yes, Patrick. Yeah,
Shoot your shot. Shoot your
yes,
shot, sir.
Can't have any wasted motion out here.
that's what she
so,
said.
so, so we'll put Prodigy and Lower Decks into the possible category. So
Well,
we have no's and then we have the possible. So let's see if we can get into this. Huh. Yes, that could probably work. Let's see if we can get into there.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Um, are you also skipping over Star Trek Picard?
Yes. 100%. Yes. Wholeheartedly. Why?
because I did a quick count and I was like, he's still missing one.
Why? I had done a good job, Patrick, with pretty much erasing Star Trek Picard out of my memory. Uh, I had done a really good job up until right now, Patrick. Thanks a lot. Thank you. I really classified Star Trek Picard season 3 as just the movie. That's the way I classified. Season 1 and season 2 did not happen. It it was not a thing. Season
Okay.
3 was all a movie. It was a very long movie.
Not
Yes.
okay. Let me make it very clear. This is not my answer, and I would not approach it being my answer.
Okay.
If I had to just being a lawyer here, construct a rationale for it. If people know Patrick Stewart from X-Men, and the other stuff that he's been in that's not coming to mind, but mainly X-Men, he's been in a Marvel movie now, and they're like, Patrick Stewart, I love Patrick Stewart. It's Patrick Stewart centric. It's
It
2/3 of it
is.
is terrible from from our
Oh,
perspective, but
okay,
and
since you brought it up, let's get into this, okay? All right. You're going to make me unlock that cabinet that I had locked shut in my brain. You're going to make me.
I have a list of the series right in front of me. I was like, there's 4 left, and he said 3, and I'm like, which one is he leave it out?
Let's get into it. Make your case, sir.
That is my case. Is that it's a series that's anchored on a celebrity that is known outside of Star Trek. Um, and if it's what people know, then you can like they don't know that it's bad, right? Because they're new to Star Trek,
So,
and you can binge
That
it
is
all
true.
at once and get through the whole story. So they may watch other Star Trek and be like, "Wow, you started me off on like the worst series except for the last season." And I'll be like, "Yeah, but I got you started,"
But I
you
got you
know?
into it. Yeah. I have a
okay,
counter. I have a counter to that, but Kumla, go ahead.
okay. Going off of Dante's first episode,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to introduce this new person. We're going to say one of our wives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
To a white man living on a plantation in France with alien slaves. That's what you gonna. That's what you gonna introduce. We learn later that they're not, but for that first episode, that's what they gonna think.
I would like to note for the record that I voted for Kamala Harris in the last election. Um, yeah, no, it's terrible. I mean,
and
like,
and as I've stated in every episode that I've shot on YouTube, the name of this channel is the Unpopular Black Gamer. That goes to show you which nationality I am. Okay.
I think, as Kuma is pointing out, there is a risk that the Picard series could get you the unwanted questions, not the questions of I like to learn more about Star Trek, but like, why is this the way that it is?
Well,
And it's like, well, I don't really want to explain that.
well, Kumla had an excellent point. You also had a good point as well, pointing out the actor. All right.
Mhm.
However, here's where that doesn't trick. Pun intended.
Ah, ah, ah.
Um, the it's starting, especially starting with the first episode. It requires you to know certain things about previous Star Trek, namely the Next Generation, to understand certain things that they were talking about. Like
The
you wouldn't fully
yeah,
understand Patrick Stewart and why he is in this vineyard now. He'll probably glance over the fact that his brother and son are no longer they're passed away. So you miss that. Um, you don't know
yeah,
really the legacy characters, your Geordie LaForges, your Riker, your Crusher.
Yeah, that's
Well, they don't
yeah.
really get to any of that until several episodes in, if you remember. There's a lot of putting the band together with new people episodes.
Right,
Granted,
yeah, and they
yes,
don't know the band, and they won't know the band.
but
That's
okay,
true.
They
and
just show up on screen, and it's like, oh, it's supposed to be this big minion now, and your person sitting there like, who's that?
and they won't understand. Like you remember the admiral that he went to talk to get help, and she said sheer fucking hubris. Like
Yeah,
won't even fully get why she said that.
why
Granted,
that's a big deal.
granted, as a Trekkie, we fully didn't understand why she said that, but uh, you you still kind of can get it as a Trekkie, but as a non-Trekkie, you're like, what is going on? Like, why is she even saying that to him? So there, the Borg, the well, granted, Q didn't come into effect until season 3. Um, there's certain things about it that I feel like a non-tracker would be like, "What am I watching? Is this? I don't understand what the heck is going on." In my opinion,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, also to build my counter argument, the first 2 seasons are bad. Like, just objectively
extremely.
speaking, like, like I am also asking them to watch bad television.
I mean,
And the funny,
but what
the
can also go towards your argument is I look at like okay, you pointed out Iron Man earlier that your father loved Iron Man. Iron Man 1.
hmm
Uh, I rarely heard a person that said they never did like Iron Man 1. Even non Marvel people who grew up reading the comics, a lot of them never said that they didn't like Marvel Iron Man 1.
Iron Man one.
right,
Iron Man 2, uh, we can kind of agree as a fandom that Iron Man 2 wasn't as strong as Iron Man 1.
hmm
Granted, there's some of us that like it. I still like Iron Man 2, but there are a lot of fans that don't like Iron Man 2. And then in Iron Man 3, I can
It's the
tell
Picard. It's the Picard of the series.
it is. It it is objectively the worst Iron Man. And I hate it. I hate Iron Man 3 even to this day. And I know hate is a strong word, but like for you to take a legacy villain like the Mandarin and do them the way that they did in that movie, it completely turned me off from that movie. Now, going back and rewatching Iron Man 3 and turning off my Marvel brain and just enjoying it as a movie, yeah, it was a good movie. It was actually a pretty great movie. But turning back on my Marvel brain, it's like, no, this freaking sucked. So if I'm using that as a kind of a template to Picard, people that don't know Star Trek going into that, they might actually enjoy the episodic nature of that show just because they don't know all the stuff with the previous Star Trek. Now, some things will go over their head because they don't know the things about previous Star Trek, but it is possible that they could get into it. What do y'all think?
Whew.
Um,
That puts it on. You broke out the lower decks argument for it.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, so the first series, the first season is them trying. It is a mystery, right? They're trying to figure out why all the androids went haywire.
hmm
It's very. It. I mean, it gives you a mystery to solve. Um,
hmm
uh, it's not like it was bad acting. It's just like
yeah. It wasn't bad acting. I could
wasn't
definitely agree with
bad.
The
that.
I
the
It
mean,
just
writing was the issue.
yeah, it
It
was
was
just
just
bad
paced
writing.
so terribly. They had to resolve everything in the last 2 episodes after 8 episodes of setup, and it like didn't totally track.
yeah, but someone who's not a Trekkie, they we may be asking a whole bunch of questions because of the knowledge we know that didn't get answered. Someone who doesn't know may not have those same questions and be like, it was okay. But I also don't think it would necessarily lead them to want to watch. Well, maybe it would lead them to the next generation to see Picard as a younger guy.
That's possible.
Maybe,
Yeah, that would be
maybe.
the handoff.
Yeah.
Especially with the way that it ends. It's like, oh, he had this whole crew. Like, if you didn't know, he had this whole crew, and they're this badass. Like, we're gonna, like, I can get more of that. Yeah, I'll be like, I'll take you back to 1987,
Okay,
season
so
one.
so it's safe to say that we can put this in the hell no category. Is that our conclusion? That's the conclusion we're coming up to, right? All right, no disagreements. All right, cool. Next one. All
I
right.
feel like, I feel like,
Dang it, Patrick.
I feel like we may have ended impossible, despite our feelings for it.
Me and my objective brain.
Here's the thing, right? Okay, here's look at it this way, Dante. If we start them off this low with a bar this low,
It can go
the
only go
rest
up from there, huh?
it can only go up from there.
Only
It can
up.
only go up from there.
They're gonna be freaking amazed by everything else.
Star Trek Voyager would be no. Star Trek Enterprise would be a masterpiece compared to that one.
Exactly.
All right, we'll put it in the possible category.
It's March Madness, man. It's upset season.
Oh, that pains me.
Picard just pulled off an upset.
That really pains me. Oh, I didn't even want to talk about that series, Patrick.
Well, that's why it's not just you on here. You got Kumla, you got me.
You're keeping me honest. Okay. All right. Let's see if we can get into some yeses here. You know what? Let's go with the one that a lot of fans really dislike. Star Trek Discovery.
I think so. The plus to Discovery, just like I think a plus is to Picard,
Mm-hmm.
and a plus to uh
Lord X.
Strange New Worlds. Strange New Worlds
New Worlds. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
is that they are newer and the CGI is so much better and they can do so much more with it that it actually feels more futuristic, and the worlds they create visually can help pull the people in. Um, with Discovery, I think you need to know so much uh, that is just not a good place to start. I think you start off with a woman that is half human, half Vulcan. You don't even know why that's significant. So all you think is, dang, they don't like black people on Vulcan too? What's going on?
That is true. That is true.
So, and then you ask yourself, why is this person in this position in the first place? And I don't think that's a good place to start because it's if you don't, well, let's assume they don't necessarily know who Spock is, right? So you don't really care that it's that it's his sister.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know. You're probably just wondering why are they doing what they're doing for the first couple episodes of the series,
And
why does it matter?
I would disagree.
I think we've hit the first disagreement point because I think I disagree a little bit too.
Because let's go back to my whole thing, the pilot episode. I feel like the pilot episode does a good job of introducing you to the world and the main characters. And you don't necessarily have to know Star Trek to understand the beginning portions of that episode. It's like they're on the what was the shoju. I can never pronounce that ship name.
Yeah, me neither. I'm not even gonna try because I almost got canceled earlier talking about the Kazon, so I'm gonna get actually canceled.
So you know the ship that they're on. You know the captain. You know the commander. You get introduced to Suru. You get introduced to some of the bridge officers. So you get a idea of what this particular series is at least going to talk about. And even though the whole conflict with the Cleons is a thing, like that will probably be one of the things that will go over Trekkies' heads. I still feel like they did a decent job of introducing the Cleons. Granted,
No,
part
it didn't. I don't know what those Klingons were that they had in there. Those are not the Klingons I know. You go to
see
any other series, you go to any other series, you're gonna be like, where are the Klingons? I don't
see
see any Klingons.
once again,
That's a good
once
point.
again, you're thinking with your Trekkie brain. You're thinking with your Trekkie brain. Yes,
Actually, I think that is a decent point. Like the next series, there's no other series with Klingons that look like that. So you have to be like, no, no, those are the same thing.
wrong,
Like
sir. Wrong, sir. The Star Trek movie, the J.J. Abrams movie, the Klingons did look like that.
that's in a
That
different
I
universe.
know it's in a different universe, but that was the reason why they decided to use that rendition of the way that the Klingons look because of how well the Star Trek movies, those the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies did. That's why they decided to go that route with the Klingons. Not saying that it was the right choice. I am not saying that at all. As a Trekkie through and through, I did not like the design of those Klingons. I wanted the Lieutenant Commander Worf version of the Klingons.
Yeah, which we get in Strange New Worlds. So
Exactly. Exactly. So, but I feel like the episodic nature uh, of the
serialized.
serialized, excuse me, yeah, the serialized nature of that series, the fact that they didn't get too technical a lot of times when it came to certain aspects of the world that they were building. Probably the main technical aspect of it that will go over people's heads is the whole how when they got on Discovery, how it actually used the mycelial network to travel through the da 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 da. But even I feel like even that was enough to like for non-trackers to just like gloss over and be like, oh, this is just how they travel or whatnot. So I feel like it would be a better series for non-trackies, in my opinion.
Yeah, we might because the court is split here a little bit, net out to possible. But I don't think I'd have a problem starting a new person in on this series. One thing is that it's got Michelle Yeoh in it and Jason Isaacs in it. I think that's his name, Jason Isaacs. So you got like
Mm-hmm.
two big stars who have been in
Mm,
other major properties
that's true.
right off the bat in there. So there's people that they're going to recognize. Um, I think Michael Burnham's a cool character, and I like the arc of the first season for her, where she gets like busted down and kind of has to like refine what it
Yeah.
means to be in Starfleet through the events of the first season, and you get like a really good counter example of what Starfleet isn't.
Yeah.
And there, I think you would leave that whole story being like, oh, I get why everybody's doing what they're doing and what the ethos is and things like that. And then it just kind of takes off from there with like the Red Angel season and the season where the more advanced species is actually feeding off the Federation, and they have to deal with
Mm-hmm.
that. Like I think it's pretty easy, a pretty easy entry point to get into, in my opinion.
Go have we dissuaded you?
Mm, so I liked Discovery. I was a fan of Discovery.
Oh yeah, I would
Um,
say let's point that out. All three of us are fans of Discovery.
Hmm.
but when I look at the first episode, right,
Mm-hmm.
draws you into these quote unquote Cleons that I ain't never seen
Not
this
my
kind of
Klingons.
thing. I ain't
Hashtag,
Aren't you
never
getting
seen
hashtag
this
not
canceled
my
kind of
now
thing.
too?
Klingons. Racist,
Uh,
Kuma's getting
racist.
canceled now. What I said about the Kazon.
um,
Go ahead, Kuma. Sorry.
right, and the the way they portray the big conflict, right,
Mm-hmm.
between the Klingons, the guy who is trying to lead the Klingons into war against the Federation, his motives or what he's claiming about the Federation, you have no basis to say yay or nay if you're new to the main villain's entire motivation
Mm.
in the first episode. So you have no basis
But wouldn't you
to
say that would be
say,
the main intrigue with it? Because you don't know exactly how the Federation really is. Like, for all you can say is that this person might be right.
mhm, well, maybe, but
Well, Takuma's point though, it doesn't really balance out like the storytelling to like show their side, show the Federation side. Like you're pretty much pro Federation from there if you're trying to ideologically buy into it. So it's a fair point.
yeah. I mean, it's not that. I mean, like I said, I love the series, but starting them off here is, I don't know. I feel like it's throwing them into the deep end. It's sink or swim. Like,
Okay, I would definitely agree with you on that one.
yeah,
It is kind of throwing you. You're not. This is not a shallow end series. I would agree with you on that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I
That's kind of what I was saying. It's very deep and it's very good. And maybe the visuals, the storytelling, maybe it entices the person to stick along long enough, but it is very much deep in um, of the Star Trek lore.
but do you feel like if you sat down your wife to watch that, do you think she would think that it was kind of interesting?
I think she would initially, at the very least, give it a chance because of Burnham.
Mm-hmm. Because she knows that actor.
Yeah, I don't know if she really. What else was she in that
The
my wife
Walking
wouldn't know?
Dead.
Yeah, nope,
Uh,
she wouldn't know that one.
oh, okay.
She didn't watch that. She didn't watch that. But
Yeah, I'm
if
not really
my wife,
into zombie stuff
my
either.
black, she
So
sees another black woman on TV, she's gonna give it a shot. She's gonna give it a
Oh,
shot.
okay, got
Um,
you, got you.
right, she's gonna give it a shot. I mean, my wife personally is probably gonna be out at the violence that the Klingons, uh, the violent nature of the Klingons, but they're because they are this episode they are a bit more violent than most of the like in general the violence has stepped up a bit more than
mm-hmm.
in most
Yeah.
of the Star Trek.
Because they're
Um,
like a ultra violent sect of the Klingons, which I didn't even know was actually possible.
They're like,
These are
hey,
the
hey,
guys that
isn't
the
that all
Klingons look
Cleon?
to.
right, yeah,
The Klingons look at these guys and are like, "Yeah, they're too hardcore for us."
yeah.
I'm
So
like, okay.
yeah,
Oh, Sonequa
so
Martin
if you,
Green was also in The Good Wives, The Good Wife as well. What
I don't know if she's seen that one or not,
I
but
know my wife has,
okay,
Hmm.
because she knew the actor when I had started watching it, and she was like, "Hold on, I know her," and she like looked it up. Oh yeah, Sonequa Martin Green. She was in The Good Wife. She didn't really watch the Walking Dead series, but I believe she was in something else that she had also watched before.
but if she watched long enough, Tilly would probably be the character that drew my wife in further to
Hmm.
watch.
Hmm.
Hmm. And that's
Um,
and
And
that's
that's
funny
what
because
Tilly is there for. Yeah.
a lot of fans do not like Tilly. A lot of
What?
a lot of fans online they don't like Michael Burnham. They don't like Tilly. They feel like they're way too emotional and it like changes the dynamic of Star Trek as it is. I completely totally disagree with it. Um, I love the
Worf has
emotion that
said so many times in Star Trek
mhm.
how the slightest insult he would have regularly have killed a man, including Picard, and you're like, they're too emotional.
because it's the crying. It's the crying part that they always complain about. Especially Burnham's character, where they like she cries in just about almost every episode. I'm just like, bruh, it's like you're.
Again, Worf could be like, if any other man had burnt my toast that way, I would have killed him where he stood.
So,
It's like not emotional.
so, so let's be real. Most of this, the complaints are just dudes who don't like women.
Yeah, it's
But
misogynistic. Oh,
most,
There we
most
go.
of them is
Yeah.
just dudes who don't like women. But I will say, at least for Burnham's character, she is supposed to be half Vulcan. So crying every
Is she
episode.
supposed to be half Vulcan?
no,
Isn't she?
she is
Oh, no,
completely
she was
human.
just raised on
Yeah,
Vulcan.
she
That's
was
right. She
raised
was
on
just
Vulcan.
raised
Raised
on
on.
Vulcan.
Okay.
Right.
So
Yeah.
she,
Oh, I
they
get your point. She's
they
supposed to
did
be.
teach her
Yeah.
how to suppress her emotions, but
Right.
she's still human. So
Yes.
She's supposed to be suppressing emotions, but yeah, she's definitely.
I mean, the other point is that apparently Vulcans feel emotions way deeper than humans supposedly do. So if she's using
Hmm.
Vulcan techniques and she doesn't feel as deeply, shouldn't they be more effective? But you know,
Fair.
I really don't, but I didn't care about that part.
No.
So because the writing was still good, I liked the characters. It was still great. Like honestly, it would have been had they the only reason they had her, I see them having her raised by Vulcans is for the Spock tie-in for the first season.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really it. Um, but yeah, I don't know.
So
Yeah,
possible.
possible.
Yeah, I'll go possible. Kumla raises some really good points.
He does. He does.
So yeah, I think I was a definite yes, but I could put it in possible. I think I'm like a strong possible on it. But yeah, possible.
I
Yeah,
was.
I think it's like the spade jack. It's a strong possible.
Yeah, there you go. I like it. Yeah,
Got you. I like that.
some of the audience isn't going to get that, but we got that.
For those who don't know, that's a famous card game that most black people play.
Most play, we all play, and part of our culture gets stratified by it.
Well, I was gonna say that, but then these youngins. I think a lot of these youngins don't even know how to play spades.
Oh man,
Yeah,
well, gotta coach them up.
yeah. I think Gen Z is kind of destroying that for us. But okay, we'll put that in the possible category. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a possible. Um, let's move on to Deep Space Nine, because
If you're going off of first episodes, that starts off pretty strong.
It does. I am mildly conflicted.
I am too.
Um, Man, the only it's actually kind of the same thing. I feel like you need to know some Star Trek before you get into it, and that's what the series was designed for. But it's probably the most relatable series in the whole thing.
It is.
Like you get the ideals that they want to chase and how they're coming short of the ideals, and then there's like a war that goes on. Like, sorry everybody, it's basically like real life. Like, like you'll get this series very intuitively.
And the character development. The character development in Deep Space Nine was probably the best out of all the series that we've watched, at least in my opinion. And that's where I felt like Voyager really fell short of was the character development and making your characters believable from the first episode to the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
My only thing with it though is that it runs the risk of the next generation where there is a lot of jargon, Trek jargon there, especially when they get into scientific stuff that could go over certain people's heads. And like I'm pointing out, once again, going back to my whole wife thing, like if I had sat down my wife to watch this series, would she get into it from the first few episodes? I think it would be tough. I really think it would be tough.
Ooh, I actually
Here's the
disagree with that
question.
because I go ahead, go.
Here's the question.
Hmm.
Just like we were talking about Seven of Nine and T'Pol, is Cisco a strong enough character to bring in the ladies?
Hmm.
A man called Hawk in his prime. Yeah.
I mean,
The only thing they did wrong in with him in those first couple seasons is made him have hair to his limb.
I was
Oh
just about to
yeah, I
say, I
forgot
don't
about
think
that.
any one of us could really talk to
I
that.
mean, yeah. I mean,
I would.
they
I
gave
mean,
us
You
they
say
gave us
this
Major
after I've
Cure.
talked to it.
Right, yeah.
if Idris Elba, if it was Idris Elba and Cisco, I would say yes, because my wife talks about Idris Elba all the time. So, uh, but would Cisco be enough of a sex appeal for women? But you also have to think of this was also a '90s show when it was created. So,
Hmm.
Also, you have for what we can talk to that degree, you have what's her name, Terry Farrell, Dax on the
Dax,
show.
yeah,
Mm,
Like,
she
yeah.
wasn't. I don't know if they
I
would,
mean,
if you would consider her along the same lines as like what they did with Deanna Troy, what they did with DePaul, what they did with
it's because she's not wearing a
Seven of
cat
Nine.
suit. She's wearing an
Exactly,
actual uniform.
exactly.
That's the only reason why you think that.
But there are certain
Deanna Troy was
episodes
out of
like,
uniform. Everyone else was out of uniform. Dax is in uniform.
but there are certain episodes where like the episode where her the symbiote that was once um a spouse to the symbiote that she currently holds was in another person's
hmm.
body, and that was a female, and they had like, of course, that attraction and feeling still, and they kissed or whatnot. So like you had the episode like that where it brought some sex appeal, but that would be mainly for, in my opinion, the man more so than women, unless there are some women that go that direction. Every part thought that was very very
Back in the '90s, it was for us.
yeah, back in the '90s, it definitely was. But I couldn't give you that same aspect of like what would draw women into that. Um, but also at the same time, like thinking about the stories, thinking about what they talked about, going with the first episode, I could see possibly my wife being drawn in because it is a black man being
Hmm.
the main lead.
Yep.
Um, they do touch on certain things with the Bajorians as like a time where they were enslaved, so you got like that going for it. So I could see her being interested in certain aspects of it, but I couldn't definitely tell you with full certainty that she would by the end of it be like, let's watch the next episode.
Right.
I I disagree.
Go ahead.
I might be talking too much, Kuma. I gotta let you get in here too. I just feel like people would get this. Like it's just so much like the world we're living in now that I think
It's
they
true.
would get the proxy. Like an occupied people have risen up against their occupier and they're requesting assistance from a stronger government entity to back them up and
Hmm.
like some of the Trek stuff might get by them. Like they might not get why it's different from TNG, obviously, or things like that. But I just feel like on some level, people are like, "Oh, I get this," and at the end of the episode, they'd be like, "And I want to see how it turns out." And this series, full disclosure, is my favorite series. So it
Full
goes
disclosure is
to
my favorite series.
it goes to a lot of different places with it. I don't know, living in this day and time right now, and living in that day and time back then. Unfortunately, I just feel like people would watch the first episode and be like, "Oh, okay, I get what's going on. I want to see if the good guys can hold on because people are looking for hope."
Kuma.
Uh, I mean, I think the opening is relatable. It's the man who's just lost his wife and he's gonna have to figure out a way to raise his son way without her and way away from home. Um,
I
and
didn't
then
even think
there's
about that part. That could be
hmm
also a
Mm-hmm.
hook.
yeah. Like I said, I think this is one of the strongest opening episodes of the entire universe, Star Trek universe, that you could introduce someone to for the pilot. Um, that might be enough to hook them in long enough to get to know the characters and like them. I think it's a strong possibility. I think it's a strong possibility. It's still not the one I would choose, but I wouldn't fault you for going with this one for the first one.
Yeah, that's kind of where I land. Like if I'm taking the snap on this question, and I just want to like throw the ball 40 yards down the field, hoping that it works out. Like this
Hail
is the
Mary.
one that I would pick. Yeah.
This is the play.
Well, no. I think I got to play. You know, I think I'm. I
Oh,
think I'm
okay.
throwing it to. I don't think it's a Hail Mary. I think I've called in it, but yeah, it definitely could get blocked by people's defenses to not knowing the universe and not getting it. But man, if you did start out on this series and stuck with it, I think you'd. Honestly, it's the opposite if you started them on Picard, right? Because you start with like a series that's near the top, and then the rest of it's gonna feel pretty diluted. So, yeah, I think I pretty much end up where Kuma's at, which is like strong possibility, but I don't know if it'd be the one I would do, but
See,
I don't know if I was feeling bold.
and Kula had a great point when it came to his wife passing in that very first part of the first episode. I feel like that could hook in a lot of people that are non-Trekkies into wondering, like, okay, how is Cisco going to be now that his wife is dead? And he clearly showed that he really loved her just from like crying and didn't want to leave her. Um, so I feel like that could be a hook. I do feel like that could be a hook, something to draw them in. The
Hmm.
first episode didn't have a lot. It really didn't have, in my opinion, um, as I think about it, it didn't have a lot of tricky
It
verbiage.
had one big thing though.
The wormhole.
Oh, you said verbiage. Never mind.
Yeah,
I thought you were
verbiage.
gonna say like sorry. Yeah, I thought you were
What
gonna say something else.
Well, what I think about like non-Trekkies, I feel like a lot of the scientific stuff can go over certain people's heads, especially if they haven't been like in that world to understand like how certain things work within that
Hmm.
world. So I feel like the less Trek knowledge or verbiage that you put into it, the better the non-Trekkies can grasp onto it, and that's what J.J. Abrams did with the movies. Uh,
And the knowledge part was what I was about to respond to because
mhm.
one aspect of the first episode that's gonna happen is once again Patrick Stewart, who has star power,
Mm-hmm.
is gonna
Oh
show
yeah,
up,
yeah, yeah,
and Cisco is going to hate this man
yeah,
to
But
the
you
point
know
where
why?
it's almost on site.
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And I don't remember in that
It shows,
opening
bro.
thing they
It shows them. It
it
shows.
shows
It
him.
shows
Oh,
them.
okay. Well, then you
Yep.
probably
It
get it
shows them.
then. Yeah.
Yeah. You're probably gonna be like, what the hell? How is he?
How is he back and in charge, outranking this man? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but I also feel like if you're sitting down with this person, you can easily explain that. Yeah, so in Star Trek: The Next Generation, he got taken over by this race called the Borg, and where they pretty much mind controlled him and used him as a way to get Federation secrets to be able to attack the Federation. And that beginning part of this show was the biggest battle of that episode within the next generation. So they're showing you what happened then, and then now showing him after the fact when they rescued him and reverted him back to human.
I don't
And
even
see,
think you need to explain all that because
ooh, okay.
they show Picard in the as a Borg talking about resistance is futile on the
Hmm.
screen, and then they show the war and him and him losing his wife, and then they show him
Mm-hmm.
showing up in uniform, and you're like, oh, I understand why it's on site immediately. Like I think even if you like, you don't need any of that background to be
There's
like,
also
yeah, I
some
get it on site.
I feel like my wife would ask. Well, hold on, wait,
Well,
what
she would
happened
ask.
there?
Well,
Right.
and to go along with Kuma's point, I think there's also like an opening scroll. Like there's like some written like
Mm-hmm.
exposition in there as well that catches you up. So,
That is, but I feel like the opening scroll is about as vague as Star Wars opening scroll. It still requires you to.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
still requires you to have some type of knowledge as to what is
which
going on.
the first few times that I watched Star Wars as a kid, I absolutely did not read.
See.
Oh no, not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. Oh,
Not
those
even a
are
bit.
words? What? Oh, oh.
Oh, there's an opening
Whatever.
scroll
Start the
again
movie.
at the beginning. Anyway,
It's going too fast.
Right.
so
Oof.
possible? Yes. Possible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's a.
What are we leaning towards here?
I think it's
So the
a.
thing
I
is,
think it's a yes.
Okay,
oh,
Kuma's
you think it's a
yes.
yes? Okay.
Patrick.
I
Oh
think it's a
man.
yes.
Like I
Still not
said,
my
if
first
I
pick.
not your first pick, but oh yeah, does yes have to be our first pick or?
No.
No. No.
This
No.
is
Oh,
just
then I'm a yes.
saying.
Then
This is a series that you probably would introduce to somebody that never really.
yeah, I think the themes in this series are so relatable that even if they didn't ask any questions, once they get what the Bajoran and Cardassian thing is, they're gonna be fine. They're gonna be off and running.
Okay, I was leaning towards more so possible because I thought this had the same issue as the Next Generation. But I feel like y'all brought some arguments that would make this more palatable for a non-Trekkie. So I'm leaning
Mm-hmm.
towards yes as well. I mean, it doesn't hurt that this is also my favorite series, but you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I got the D Space Nine color glasses on as well. Like, I don't know if I'm being totally objective with this one.
Okay, so moving on from that one, we'll go to the series that I feel like the three of us would pretty much have a unanimous decision on. At least I feel. Star Trek: Strange New Worlds.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a
It
no-brainer yes to
starts.
me.
It starts off with a dude saying, "I don't want to go back to work." You've got me hooked. You've got me hooked.
Love it.
I'm hooked. I'm in.
But do you
Yeah.
feel because it starts off there, but it's also piggybacking off of season two of Discovery as well. So someone who hasn't watched season two of Discovery watching this and he's talking about he don't want to go back because of what he saw when he took that time crystal.
Hmm.
Like would
I think. I think they do a good enough job explaining it
mhm.
within that episode. Um, that a new person would be like, "Oh, okay."
Yep.
And this, like, I think they flash back enough to show you what happened
Mhm.
that a new person would just be like, "Okay."
Patrick.
It
Yeah.
also, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was
I
just
was
gonna
gonna
agree
say
with
it
you.
also, yeah, it also helps that I actually showed my wife the first episode and she wanted to see the next one, so
There we go.
that kind of
So
sold me.
I was trying to be objective here and like at least point out some of the bad things that could
Yeah.
like make a person not want to watch the rest. But my wife has watched multiple episodes of this series as well.
Hands down, this is the easiest series to get into. I mean, there's no debate.
Yeah.
It's the right amount of episodic and serialized.
Hmm.
You don't
Hmm.
need to know a thing about Star Trek to get what's going on in any of these episodes. And yeah, Captain Pike pulls the crew together and they go save the day. Like it's too easy.
Yeah.
I think.
And and they talk about the prompt directives, but it doesn't get in the way like it
Mm-hmm.
does in other series because
Mm-hmm.
they're still establishing it. So it's like a suggestion at this point, and they mention it, but it's like it's not a barrier as much to things happening in this show, like or at least so far in the
And,
show,
and they
like
do.
it is in others.
I feel like they do a good job of the scientific jargon that they do use. That it's not overly complicated. They explain it just well enough for even a layman to understand what's going on there. And also at the same time, they don't use it a lot throughout their episodes. So a lot of their episodes are more relatable because of that. And then also going back to what we said on previous Star Trek series, the sex appeal. My wife said countless times how Anson Mount was very handsome. she said she said that countless times. That was one sexy white man. She like she.
He's also a Tennessee Titans fan, so
Oh,
I
you
don't
just
know
want
why
to you want to point that
why
out?
that needed to be said, but
You
yeah.
want to? Oh, okay. All right.
Uh,
Um, Ethan
Ladies, you need
Peck.
to know that all Tennessee Titans fans are very attractive. So that's all I'm saying.
Oh,
Use that information as you will.
okay. Moving along. Ethan Peck. Ethan Peck would be another actor that will bring some sex appeal, especially for because I've heard some women like how he looks. Heck, from the male's perspective, Christina Chong, who plays La'an, really beautiful. The
Nurse Chapel
Nurse
and Uhura,
Chapel,
yeah.
Hmm.
gorgeous. So, like, I feel like this is the one series where we're not just giving eye candy for those that love women. We're also giving you
Yeah,
eye
Rebecca
candy.
Romaine is in this series too.
I mean,
Like,
right?
Hmm.
You didn't even name her first. That says something.
Mystique from X Men is in this
Right.
series.
That
You got a
is true. You
supermodel.
know what? I
You got a
forgot.
supermodel on there.
Oh my god, I forgot she played
Hmm.
Mystique. You're right.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
feel like they do a good job of giving like enough sex appeal for both sides there. So not only that, the writing from
It's
episode
good.
one is so
Yeah,
good, so good. It makes you
it
fall in
goes
love
a
with the
pretty
characters.
it goes a pretty long time before you get a bad episode, which
We're not going to talk about that. We don't go there. Don't go there. We're not talking about that.
I only have to go there because I very famously said on the internet that this show will never have a bad episode, and then the next episode was the bad
Is
episode.
it? Is it? Which one was it? The hallucination? The one where they're in the different costumes and stuff? Is that the one you're talking about?
No, no,
Oh, that's
it
funny.
was a.
The,
That is a good candidate.
because that's one of my least favorite episodes.
Yeah, that is a good candidate. I didn't like Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, the one where they went back in time
It was a lot
and it
the
was
Law centric episode.
and they took a Kirk from a
Oh,
different universe and he just gets shot with like a gun and you can't tell like it's supposed to be like a ticking clock episode where it's a race against time before they change the future, but then they kind of like take a day off in the middle of it.
There was a
It's
lot
so
of
confusing.
inconsistency in that episode. A
I mean,
lot.
it's time travel. It's time travel in 30 minutes. You're not gonna get it right. You
Well,
just
That's
you're
true.
not.
but not just necessarily the time travel part of it. Cooler. It's just like certain aspects. Like, okay, they were in Canada and had to go to the U.S. to talk to uh, the woman that's now their engineer. So
Yeah.
it was like, but they have no passports, no identification, none of that. How are they able to cross the Canadian border? Like
Uh,
it's certain things like that. That's just
Well,
like
you just gotta put some fentanyl in the tire wheel, and then you're just wave through.
mhm.
That's what this is all about, right? Fentanyl?
no,
Just some
no,
I
fentanyl
mean,
gets you
no,
across the border?
no, it's not. No, not at all.
No?
I mean,
Okay.
mm, it's Canadian Border Patrol. They don't care.
That's why you
but
got to
but no,
have
but see,
200% tariffs.
they're coming into the U.S. There is U.S. people on the other side.
That's what the fentanyl is for. Come
Mm,
on, keep up.
Like I could break down this episode and like go through and tell you everything that I disliked about it, but that would be an hour of me
Well, yeah,
explaining
and we
everything.
we probably spent more than an hour with Charles
Oh yeah.
covering that. Well, the biggest problem with that episode for me is that the characters, Kirk and Laan, know that they're on a ticking clock, but don't seem to care. And it's not explained. It's not explained how much time they have left to complete their mission at any point. And then they seem to be very casual about it, even though they don't know how much time they have left to complete their mission. The whole episode, they're like, "We don't know
We
when
don't
we
know
have to
when this
save
is
the
going to
day."
happen. Yeah.
Well, let's just go to Coney Island then and hang out for a bit. It's like, that's not how you're supposed to react in that situation.
And I felt like the romance between them two was just so forced. So forced. Oh my God. It was. Mm, it,
Kumla, do you even remember this episode?
I remember it. I remember it. And all I'm gonna say is for the taking of the day off, it did start out with a dude who did not want to go back to work. That's all I'm gonna say. It, you know, it did
We're not
start
exactly
off that
punching the
way,
clock on the Enterprise yet.
right? You know, it's a
but
little.
the episode right before it was at Astra per Asperia, which
Mm-hmm.
was
Aspera.
Aspera, excuse me, which was by far, in my opinion, the best episode within that series, and probably one of the top 5 best episodes of Star Trek, in my opinion. And then you had that episode that came right after it.
Mm.
It,
Yeah.
it was like
I mean,
the best. So we were starting off with the best here, and then all of a sudden, like a drop. Like, what were y'all thinking? What were the writers thinking making this episode?
well, they did find this was like I'm trying to remember. They did have an episode similar to this with Whoopi Goldberg, right, in The Next Generation, where you kind of shown
Oh,
how old
yeah.
she actually is.
Oh, that episode's
So,
so good. Oh, no, no, no,
um,
wait.
and then there was this one, which I guess they were trying to kind of trying to do the same thing with
Yeah,
Sheldon Engineer.
I see that.
I mean, it was, yeah. It's not my
Sorry,
favorite
Kumla.
episode.
I thought you were referring to the episode where Whoopi Goldberg is the only one who can sense that the universe has changed because of what happened in the past.
Oh, yesterday's
And
Enterprise.
they're fighting, yeah, yesterday's Enterprise, and they're fighting the Klingons. Man, I can watch that episode every day of the week.
That's a good one.
Mm,
But he's referring to the episode where they found Data's head,
hmm
disembodied head at the beginning, and then they ended up going back through time
Hmm.
and meeting the younger version of Guinan, which is Whoopi
hmm
Goldberg's character. So you know what? It does have some of the same um, because it did have like some elements of if they didn't stop what was occurring, that it could have meant the end of the human civilization.
hmm
So yeah, you know what? I guess they were trying to kind of do that, but also at the same time trying to make it on centric to expand her character, but they just didn't do a great job of it.
But the point in bringing it up is that out of 20 episodes, that is the one clunker you have to get through.
Unless the person is not really doesn't really like musical episodes.
Unless you're Charles.
Unless you're
Then
Charles.
yes.
Kubla
Then you have to.
Charles hates that episode vehemently. He hates
I
it.
mean, I'm not a huge fan of any of the musical episodes. I don't know why they keep doing it. in all these shows. I'm not.
Oh no, not again.
It's happening again, Patrick.
I'm
I know.
not a
I
fan of
love the
music.
musical episode. I don't know what that says about me, but I thought
The
it was cool.
the funny thing about
There's
that,
only a couple. There's only a couple musical episodes that stick out to me that I didn't mind. Scrubs. I didn't mind that one.
100%. Uh huh.
Um, and I can't think of any of the others. None of the others are sticking out to me because I probably tried to forget them. I don't remember any other.
There are a couple of musical episodes in Mad Men, and the whole point of it was to be whimsy and like non-consequential. That were pretty good. But
And
obviously, I guess I have sympathy towards musical episodes, and I don't know why, but there we go.
I mean, to help out with Charles and now by extension Kumla's point, um, musical episodes are normally put in as more of a filler episode because most TV series have a certain amount of episodes that they've been contractually obligated to actually produce for a season. So it's like, oh well, let's add in a musical episode, and a lot of times it can be easy, especially if you have a lot of characters that can sing. Uh, where it falls apart with Strange New World is there's only 10 episodes within each season, so
Mm,
you're taking up one episode to be a musical episode that you don't necessarily need filler because you need all 10 episodes to flesh out your characters more. Not to say that that episode didn't do that. I feel like it did. But to certain people that especially don't like musical episodes like that, they would be like, why was this even a thing? We could have fleshed out these feelings that
fair.
Spock and Nurse Chapel had without having them sing it to one another, or the whole issue with that happened with Pike and his girl without having them sing it to one another. Like, so I get it,
This
but I didn't necessarily
this
hate it.
this does bring up a good point about why Strange New Worlds is such a good starter as well. Is because you get the values of Star Trek, and you get that it's going to be weird sometimes too.
Mm. Yeah.
You're in space and
That's true.
weird stuff is going to happen, and you got to figure it out and explain it to usually
That's
save
true.
lives or at least get stuff to stop being so weird. And that happens a lot in Strange New Worlds.
And Kula, one of the main reasons why they did that episode was because there were a lot of the actors that either had been on Broadway or had large musical talent that they were just like, hey, why don't we use that as one of the episodes? So
I mean, I feel like they could have kept that in their back pocket for like season 8, 9. Never.
never.
All
Fair
right,
point.
Dante, me and you will be the only ones who like that episode.
I mean,
And
to be fair, I did give it a 7 out of 10. Uh, on that one, it
I was
wasn't.
the only one that gave it a 10. I know I'm like way out on the uh, outlier on the positive side, but yeah.
At least they gave a good reason for it to be a musical episode. At least it,
Hmm.
actually tied into the plot instead of just being pure filler. But yeah,
And that was one of the things that we had discussed because it was funny when we were reviewing those episodes and we had heard that one of the episodes was a musical episode, and we brought up like it wouldn't make sense in the Star Trek world if all of a sudden like they just started bursting out singing. So they would have had to have create something to justify them singing throughout the whole episode, which I feel like they did do a good job with that as well. I agree.
Charles didn't feel that way, but I agreed with you. I was like, they explained it enough in the world of weird stuff happens from time to time that it worked for me.
Okay, so Strange New Worlds.
Uh, one quick note before you
Okay.
move us along. I think this series also will have people asking questions about other series because the season one finale is an alternate version of a TOS classic episode that's actually really good.
Mm.
And so it's
You're
like
right.
you watch that episode and it's like, well, what happened in the other timeline? Why is this, kind of weird? And it's like, oh, well, let me show you this.
Well, and not only that, it relates back to a lot of the original series, but also I feel like it would also make people want to go back to watch Discovery as well to
Mm-hmm.
to find out like
Because
how.
the backdoor pilot, yeah.
Yeah. So I personally think that this is probably the best series to get non-Trekkies into Star Trek. What do y'all say,
I agree.
Patrick?
Yeah, definitely. If Deep Space Nine is kind of a shot play down the field, this is like a very good,
It's a 100% or
like,
not.
yeah, exactly. Like this is a play that is going to work. I can I can pull this up and go watch all 20 episodes and be ready for season 3 whenever it happens. I guess this summer sometime, but yeah.
And the Strange New Worlds is one of my. It's one of the series that I point back to Trekkies that vehemently dislike Discovery. It's like, but we would not have Strange New Worlds if it were not for Discovery.
Oh,
Like,
not at all. Not even close.
I can understand that Discovery is not your cup of tea. Okay, say that. It's not my cup of tea. I don't like how they do certain things. I don't like how they did the Klingons. I feel like some of the pacing wasn't that great. Um, Acting is, decent. Da da da. Even some writing there is like not that great. But to just like vehemently dislike it and point out like, oh, because Burnham is a Mary Sue, like she just knows everything and is able
Which she
to
isn't.
fix
She's
everything.
not Mary Sue. They go out of the
Um,
way to explain how she's not. You
I really feel like those Trekkies don't do a good service of even representing Trekkies in that area. And like I said, if we didn't have Discovery, we would not have Strange New Worlds.
Come on, didn't you make a point a little while ago that might explain some of that about some people maybe not liking women?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much, pretty much. But that's their issues to work out with. To work out, I like Discovery. Just starting out, I think it's just the deep end for starting out. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, I like that if it's your second, yeah, that could that might also ruin you for a couple of the other ones too. Because if you go from the the new CGI and
Mm-hmm.
everything that we can do to some of those older ones, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I don't know. But
So recapping, our nose, the Next Generation, the original series, Voyager, Enterprise, are possibles.
Yes. Say
Picard,
it.
Prodigy, Lower Decks, and D, D Space Nine was a possible,
yeah,
right?
hmm
Yeah.
And then our yeses would be Discovery and Strange New Worlds.
Wait, or was Deep Space Nine a yes?
I thought D Space Song was a yes
You know what? You're
and
right. D Space Nine was a yes. Discovery was a
A
possible.
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 Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're right. So our top two, if we're wanting to get Trekkies into the series, would be your Strange New Worlds or your Deep Space Nine. Strange New Worlds, we do feel is like a home run hitter.
Hmm
Yeah.
All right. Any other things that y'all want to hit on before we sign off?
You might edit this out, but
Probably
there's
will.
also a
Not
lower
interested in it.
decks. Yeah. There's a lower decks crossover in Strange New Worlds, which is also another jumping off point.
Yes,
So,
it is.
That which was probably one of my that is one of my favorite Strange New Worlds episodes. I think I gave that a 10.
yeah, yeah. So you might edit it out because I'm like beating a dead horse that we're all agreeing to, but it like came to me. And I was like, oh yeah, there's a Lower Decks crossover.
Okay. Anything additional, Kuma?
I too wish to quit my job like Christopher Knight.
Come on, this is going on the internet. Cut that out.
You
You
got
gotta
that
secure
out.
the bag. Put that back in after he quits.
I don't think your wife would want to hear that, Kumla. I think she would have a lot of issues with you wanting to quit your job.
Listen,
No,
on the
I'm good.
Unpopular Black Gamer channel, we secure the bag first.
We always
That is
secure
a
the
core
bag.
value.
Look, you denigrate yourself to secure the bag. All right, you sell out as much as possible to secure that bag, sir. All right.
Yeah. Should edit
Okay, I'm
that
gonna
part
need
out
you to
too.
calm down. Sorry, what'd you say, Kula?
So you need to edit that part out too.
Yes.
For all those who don't know me, that was sarcasm. Okay. All right. Thank you for joining us on this episode. We will definitely have more of these to come every Sunday. This is when we normally do this. Normally it's me and Patrick. From time to time, we may get special guests like Kumla. Sometimes we might even be able to bring my brother who helped us with the Strange New World review, Charles, to come on. So we do have some topics though in the future that we want to bring Kumla in. Kumla is going to be kind of like the judge, and me and Patrick are going to be on different sides of the topic, and we are basically doing it like a court trial where we're presenting our evidence on this particular topic, and then Kumla will deliberate at the very end. So we're going to do that soon. We just have to pretty much find time like today where the three of us can be on at the same time. So, with that being said, we're going to finish the episode like we normally do with that famous Picard quote.
It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not a weakness. That is life.
Unpopular Explorers, y'all have a great day.